Alright guys, let's talk about eBay coilovers for a second here. Right now, we are in my 2002 Toyota Corolla, or as you guys may know it, the Corolla Coaster. This has Maxpeedingrods eBay special coilovers on it that I paid $206 for, or something like that. It was like around 200 bucks. I had put Maxpeedingrods coilovers on a BMW before, but I didn't drive that car very much. And while this isn't a daily driver or anything, you may be familiar with the fact that I drove this car to Las Vegas and back, 1,602 miles and over 22 hours of driving.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's absurd.
How are you liking your peeing experience so far, no?
I'm getting peed on.
You know!
Oh. 10. Oh my God. I was just gonna say that. Uh-oh. Oh my God. The speed bump. Pack my bags when I got to Rio.
And I didn't run into a single issue on the way, other than we rubbed away some rubber on the tires. That had more to do with the ride height and not the suspension itself. Talk about these, and this specifically only represents Maxpeedingrods as a brand. If you watch my channel, you'll know that I have a 1979 Volkswagen Rabbit that was on some eBay coilovers as well. I believe the brand was Hot Tuning. I still have yet to ride in a car that rides halfway as poorly as the Rabbit does, but those coilovers are 4 years old, and I have a feeling Hot Tuning and Maxpeedingrods, the factories aren't far apart, but what I can say is that the ride quality is very far apart. These coilovers do not ride bad at all, and it's kind of mind-blowing to me. Like, this car is no stiffer. Ooh, got some tire rub going on. I forget that I can't just drive this like a normal car. These coilovers in no way are riding worse than my bone stock 2016 Ford Fiesta ST. The Fiesta ST is renowned for having a very rough ride quality from the factory because it is a track-oriented. Let me just kind of wait till I'm at a stoplight here on the count of the bounciness and the fact that I forgot my phone mount. So the phone's kind of just sitting on the dash, leaning on the windshield, which is why the angle keeps changing. Fiesta ST is renowned for having very stiff suspension. It's a very sporty car. And while I can't say the same about this Corolla, despite the fact that it has an S on the back, which you may think stands for sport, but actually stands for base model in that if you bought one of these brand new, you had to pay Toyota to not have the side skirts and the 3-spoke steering wheel. Very bizarre times we were living in 2002. Regardless of that, what I'm trying to say is I daily drive the Fiesta ST. I haven't for a while, but I used to daily drive the Fiesta ST. And that car is in no way a bad car to drive every day. I know a lot of people have complained about the suspension, but you shouldn't have bought an ST if you wanted, you know, a Cloud to drive. You buy an Audi, you buy a Golf GTI even has way softer suspension than a Fiesta ST. But maybe you want to be a stance boy. Maybe you want a nice low Toyota Corolla. Or the funny part about Maxpeedingrods is they make coilovers for pretty much any car you could imagine. And if the question to be answered was, is the ride quality worth the price if I'm just going to slam my car, park it at car shows, and have it look good? And if I was going to answer that, I would say absolutely. There's no reason not to buy them. And I know people who've daily driven Maxpeedingrods for quite some time. And yes, like anything else, train tracks. Oh God. like anything else, there are anomalies where people are having the pivot ball, I don't even know what the technical name is, but they'll hit a bump and that'll snap. That happens. You do get what you pay for in the long run, and God, I can't exactly speak on the quality of their longevity, but I can speak on the quality of how they ride, and I can tell you that these ones have lasted over 1,600 miles of very bumpy freeways and Las Vegas side roads, and just about anything else we could have put to test. They don't ride bad at all, but is this something you should run on a car if you plan on tracking it? I would say no. Like I just mentioned, you get what you pay for. All the R&D, all the testing and development that has gone into BC racing, even Tane, slightly lower price, even Raceland at this point, has come a long way. Maxpeedingrods have no paperwork to show you, no evidence that any of it has happened, and I feel like it's because it hasn't. When you're putting a lot of stress on the suspension, and you know, you're very high G-force corners and you're turning very sharp and you're tracking it, I would not deem these things worth the risk. That begs the question though, is there a ethical or moral problem with buying Maxpeedingrods? I'll explain that more once I'm back at my house. Basically what I'm asking when I'm waxing philosophic about whether or not there's an ethical dilemma to buying Maxpeedingrods or other cheap Chinese coilovers is kind of the same argument that I've seen people put up with fake wheels. If we're all honest here, XXR and Roto wheels are perfectly safe to drive on if you're just daily driving. And I know somebody's going to drop a comment and link someone who had one crack when they hit a bump really hard, yada yada. I have a friend who runs fake wheels on his race car and real wheels on his street car, so yes, there's anomalies to everything, but in all actuality, they're safe to drive on. Maxpeedingrods, 1,600 mile road trip, perfectly fine. The question is, should we be giving money to these companies that are very obviously ripping off years and hundreds of thousands of dollars probably in R&D for developing these wheels and coilovers? To me, it's kind of an interesting thing, because an example from the guitar world is Ibanez. One of the biggest guitar producers in the world. They started as a company that was ripping off Gibson designs and actually got sued over it in, I believe, the early to mid 80s. But after their lawsuit was finished and they made their initial money from their rip-off guitars, they started developing their own designs and production, and they have sponsored artists coming up and yada yada yada. It's kind of the same thing that happened with NRG. Their wheels used to have this negative connotation, and they still to some extent carry it, but it's not quite the same company that it used to be. If you're still buying the neochrome one with the super slippery grip portion, I don't know what you call the actual part you hold on to, then yeah, you might question it a little bit. But if you have ever felt an NRG racing wheel like the one I gave away at our charity thing, they're crazy stout and crazy nice as compared to things you would have seen from NRG years ago. So from my standpoint, there's no ethical issue with buying these coilovers or even fake wheels. It gives a lot of people the opportunity to have a stance car if they want to, or have an aftermarket wheel without going to spend all this money for track-ready equipment that's never going to see track time. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments if you should or shouldn't buy these coilovers just based on that, because I'm telling you right now, they are safe to drive on. The freeways and everything between here and Las Vegas are not the smoothest, most comfortable rides, but we didn't have an issue. We hit plenty of big bumps, bottomed out the exhaust, rubbed away the lettering on the sidewall of a tire. You know, that's just kind of how it goes. From my standpoint, I don't see a problem with buying Maxpeedingrods if you're just trying to build a stance car for fun like we did, or you just want your car to be a little bit lower and you have no intentions of tracking it. I would love to, at some point, do track testing or even like autocross or something with some Maxpeedingrods coilovers on something. I'm sure there's somebody out there drifting on them, autocrossing on them, tracking on them. And if that's you, let me know in the comments as well. But for now, what I'm trying to tell you is that Maxpeedingrods actually ride a whole lot better than you'd anticipate. And despite the fact that the R&D has been stolen from, well, Despite the fact that R&D has been stolen from companies who took the time to actually do it, they are pretty much exactly replicating nice coilovers to a T. So, I won't go as far to say it's a quality product, but it is a product I've deemed to be fairly trustworthy. With that being said, if you want to see a picture of your car at the end of one of my videos, send a picture to me at curseforeverhelp@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, add me on Snapchat at BigB1011, and we will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.